Bethesda. Just the name alone evokes feelings of epic quests, grand worlds, and Wayne Gretzky hockey. Ever since Skyrim made me fail all of my exams in my last year of high school, which was not my fault, by the way, I've wanted to get even with old Todd. These are the many scandals of Bethesda. In March of 2006, Oblivion would jostle onto the scene with an aged 13 plus T for teen rating, although it wouldn't take long for that to change. Desperate to get away from the radioactive sewage runoff world that was Morrowind, Bethesda invested millions of dollars into discovering colours other than brown and brown grey, and the game was a smash hit as a result. Although the people still seem to be suffering from the effects of radioactive sewage. 4 days after the game's release, the modding community did what the modding community does, and released a mod that removed the bras from certain female races. While this is so predictable that it's practically its own speedrunning category at this point, what made this interesting is that the nude textures were already on the disc. In the process of trying to create a nude skin for Oblivion, I found Bethesda had done all the work for me. They just covered it up with underwear afterwards. Oh, and in case you're worried about this guy being a perv, he didn't do this because of his porn addiction. He did this for America. I do this because I hate government / society / whatever, forcing companies to protect our innocent population from seeing these evil, dirty things 50% of them possess personally anyway. Not because I'm trying to turn it into a porn game. For whatever reason, the base models of certain female races were textured complete with luscious pepperoni nips and were simply covered up with a bra model after the fact. Since there's no way to remove your character's bra in-game, and therefore no way to access your character's pink bits, surely this wouldn't affect the game's rating, right? Only a year prior, the infamous hot coffee controversy went and freaking occurred. And so the puritanical public and the ESRB now had a laser focus on video style games. If you don't know about the GTA San Andreas hot coffee controversy, I'd highly recommend watching my friend Doplex's video for the full story. With this still fresh in the mind of gamers everywhere, some of them expressed their concerns in the comments of Oblivion's nude mod. Don't recreate hot coffee. I give you all one. I appreciate your work, but be afraid of the oppressive game companies. Nice work finding this, though given the controversy surrounding things like the hot coffee mod and the amount of near pornographic user mods in the Sims series, I'm surprised Bethesda would just leave this in. Sure enough, this drew the attention of the Eye of Sauron ratings board. They clarified that no game's rating would change as a result of unofficial third-party modifications, which I'm sure Bethesda was thankful for when they saw that child murder mod for Skyrim. However, since the nude content for Oblivion was technically on the disc and only used third-party mods to access it, they would still be penalized. Given that the effort required for a 14-year-old to search, locate, download, and install a nude mod is infinitely more than just googling, real free naked girl boobs, I still think it's a ridiculous rule. I guess you have to draw the line somewhere. It turns out that the game's nudity was just the tip of the dickberg. While reinvestigating the game for loose titties, the ESRB discovered that the gore in the final version of the game was much more graphic than the screenshots and descriptions that Bethesda had supplied them for review. What Bethesda had originally disclosed to us, as an example, in that section of the game, there is a hanging corpse. What they disclosed to us was a hanging corpse in the dark, pretty far away and without much detail. And yet when you bring a torch up to the hanging corpse in the actual game, you can see that it's very mutilated with lots of blood and bones. That was a very different depiction, far more intense, far more extreme than what had been disclosed to us. Bethesda ultimately bent the knee. We will not contest the ESRB's decision to re-rate the game as mature, nor will we change the game's content to keep a teen rating. They noted that there are no topless characters anywhere in the game, and that nobody at Bethesda even knows what a breast looks like. They would also be patching the game in order to remove all of the unused nude textures so that they couldn't make their way into the hands of those nefarious libertarian modders. Despite their modders getting them in hot water, Bethesda would later look for a way to help them, but mostly themselves, as we saw when they introduced. Bethesda games are known for three things: their bugs, and their mod support. Even if Bethesda releases the biggest piece of shit known to man, you can bet on modders filling all the cracks and removing all the bras within days of it dropping. The mod community is lively, beloved, and most importantly, free. Still, many mod creators spend hundreds if not thousands of hours improving these games by letting you create hot elf women with penises. Bethesda and Valve figured that it was only fair that these guys had the option for compensation. And of course, you know, Bethesda and Valve would get to skim a little bit off the top. And by a little, I mean 75%. In April of 2015, Valve announced that mod creators now had the option to charge for their mods on the Steam Workshop. The Steam Workshop has always been a great place for discovering community-made mods, maps, and items for a variety of games. Starting now with the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, the Workshop is also a great place for community content creators to earn money by selling their greatest works. This new feature allows mod authors to choose whether to list their items for a fixed price, for pay what you want, or to make their item available for free. The initial response from players was not good. The mod piracy subreddit was created immediately following the announcement and became the fastest growing non-default subreddit of that day. Surprisingly, taking something that was always free and charging for it out of the blue doesn't exactly inspire consumers to biff handfuls of green dollars at you. But it turns out this would only be the start of their problems. With the promise of a paycheck looming overhead, some devs fell victim to the insidious tactics of modern gaming, and it wasn't long before the Steam Workshop was flooded with paid early access mods. Some devs even took cues from mobile gaming, which is like taking financial advice from a toothless crack addict who's fallen asleep in a bush. These devs uploaded their mods for free, only for there to be pop-ups in-game which remind you about the full paid version. This mod in particular has a 4% chance anytime you cast a spell for a pop-up to appear. I can't even think of anything funny to say about that. It's like a 4chan green text about the greediness of game devs. Even if this is the reality we're stuck with, the revenue split seems to contradict the messaging about how mod developers deserve to be compensated for their time. Valve would receive 30%, Bethesda 45%, with the mod creator receiving the remaining 25%. After a few days of heavy backlash, Bethesda threw their 2 cents in and then took 45% back. They even made mention of the Oblivion scandal from before. Modding is one of the reasons Oblivion was re-rated from T to M, costing us millions of dollars. While others in the industry went away from it, we pushed more towards it. In our early discussions regarding Workshop with Valve, they presented data showing the effect paid user content had had on their games, their players, and their modders. All of it hugely positive. They showed quite clearly that allowing content creators to make money increased the quality and choice that players had. They asked if we would consider doing the same. It's an interesting debate. On one hand, players have grown accustomed to decades of free mods, which can drastically increase the shelf life of any given game. On top of that, adding a monetary incentive to anything will inevitably attract scammers, grifters, and anyone looking to make a quick buck to a hobby that previously ran on pure passion. On the other hand, passion doesn't pay rent. So it only makes sense that these mod developers would want to be compensated for the massive amount of time and effort that they put into these projects. Adding a monetary incentive could also attract more talented people who can now justify spending more time in order to create high quality mods. Gary Newman himself would weigh in on the situation. In case you don't know, Gary created Gary's Mod, arguably the most famous mod with arguably the most boring name. A lot of the craziness seems to come from the thought that no one will ever release their mods for free. That makes no sense. Some stuff won't be worth charging for. If a mod takes 10 seconds to make and someone wants to charge $10 for it, then they won't sell any copies because it's not worth it. This is how the market balances itself. Some mod developers express their dissatisfaction with the outcry and the implication that gamers were heavily against supporting the people who had given them so much content for free. I started publishing mods 2 years ago. Since my first mod was released on the Skyrim workshop, my mods have received over 200,000 individual downloads and 2 donations. That means 0.001% of users donated. My main issue is that most mod users do not appreciate what it takes to produce a mod. I have spent over 2,000 hours working on my mods. Regardless of your position, the response to this development has been embarrassing and shameful. I truly believe that, all reasons aside, the primary reason people don't like this is because they don't want to spend money. A mere 4 days after the paid mod feature was announced, it was taken down. We've done this because it's clear we didn't understand exactly what we were doing. We understand our own games communities pretty well, but stepping into an established, years-old modding community in Skyrim was probably not the right place to start iterating. 2 years later, Bethesda would announce the Creation Club, an exclusive gang of hand-picked mod developers whose content could be sold on an in-game marketplace for real money. Unlike paid mods, the Creation Club was more akin to Bethesda commissioning DLC from prominent mod creators. We won't allow any existing mods to be retrofitted into Creation Club. It must all be original content. Most of the Creation Club content is created internally, some with external partners who have worked on our games, and some by external creators. We've looked at many ways to do paid mods, and the problems outweigh the benefits. The Creation Club would allow you to buy new content for your games, like new weapons, new characters, and armor for your horse. You know, like... oh, horse armor. If only we knew the damage you would bring. From universally mocked to begrudgingly accepted, Oblivion's horse armor was a sample of things to come. In March of 2006, only a few weeks after Oblivion's launch, its first piece of DLC crashed into the Xbox 360 marketplace. Labeled as the Horse Armor Pack, its description read, "Tamriel is a dangerous place. Protect your horse from danger with this beautiful handcrafted armor. There are no refunds for this item." For just $2.50 of Xbox marketplace points, you could own 2 beautiful sets of armor for your horse, 1 elven and 1 steel. Fear not, for these sets are not merely cosmetic, and in fact double your horse's health. The DLC also includes a short quest which introduces you to Snack, the character who bequeaths your poor financial decision onto your character. Don't forget, there are no refunds for this item. At the time, gamers had high standards for add-on content. Blizzard's expansion packs were legendary and often overshadowed the base game. Bethesda too had put out some great expansions, like Morrowind's Blood Moon, which received an 8.9 from IGN reporter Steve Butts. So you can imagine the whiplash of going from these massive expansions full of new worlds and characters and quests and items to horse armor. The DLC's close proximity to Oblivion's release also had players feeling like this was base game content which was surgically removed and then sold back to you for the price of a really bad car. Like a really, really bad car. Equine protection is now seen as one of the first instances of microtransactions. Downloadable in-game content is a main focus of Microsoft's strategy heading into the next-gen console war. These microtransactions, as they're called, let gamers expand their experience, sometimes for a nominal fee. I've always wondered who buys this shit in video games, but I think people like Good Gamer 3000 kind of answered that question for me. This is pretty crazy to charge for something like this, but I just bought it anyways. I really wanted that horse armor. I don't know why, lol. Fan reaction was not positive. Wow, what a friggin' ripoff. $2.50 for this crap. It costs more than the standard Xbox marketplace themes, and that's basically what it is. A theme for your horse. I hope Bethesda considers lowering the prices on future content. This should cost no more than 40 points or 50 cents. Agreed. We need to break this model now and not buy any of this content. If people buy it, they'll keep making it. Tragically, people did not, in fact, stop buying this content. In hindsight, Todd believes that it wasn't the content that was the issue, but the price.
Horse armor is not bad. I think horse armor is fine. The price point at the time was the issue.
Interestingly, they initially wanted to sell it for less, but were talked out of it by Microsoft.
For what it is, actually, I think it's fine. You armor your horse, you can buy it, there's new dialogue. And we felt, well, it's probably worth this. I won't say who at Microsoft said, well, that's less than we sell a theme for. You should charge this, you can always lower it. We're like, okay.
Bethesda would go on to release several more pieces of small paid DLC for Oblivion. Having learned their lesson, this DLC included much more content than horse armor for much less, and were generally well received as a result. Oblivion's 2 expansion packs, which both featured extensive amounts of additional content, were both only $7.50 more than horse armor. Horse armor has since become a meme in the gaming community, with Bethesda themselves joining in to kick themselves in the ghoulies. After a parody ad in PC Gamer magazine announced that Skyrim's first DLC would be crab armor, Bethesda's Creation Club would make this joke a reality. The Elven and Steel horse armor sets are also available in Skyrim's Creation Club, although Bethesda now gives them away for free. 17 years of being worn down later, the public's view on microtransactions is still negative. Of course, everyone on Reddit and 4chan and Twitter and YouTube are free to scream until we're red in the face to not buy any of this bullshit. That's not going to stop some offline 34-year-old dad on his lunch break who just wants to drop $20 on Diablo Immortal because he's been psychologically conditioned into thinking that it's a good deal. $2.50 won't even get you an American trucker hat in Bethesda's own Fallout 76, let alone some shiny shielding for your four-legged friend. Speaking of Fallout 76, Fallout 76 is pretty much one big scandal in itself, but unfortunately some vaguely internet-shaped history-like person has already covered most of those stories. But hey, I'm all for sloppy seconds, so let's talk about Fallout first. Fallout 76, for those of you who don't know, is Bethesda's clumsy foray into the always online live service model of gaming. Since this game is always online, Bethesda couldn't rely on modders to fix all their bugs and remove all their bras, and the game was a hot mess on launch. 76 dropped as a full price game with the aforementioned hat-themed microtransaction shop. This lets you purchase clothes, items for your camp, and cosmetics for your character, like this balding haircut that seems like the sort of thing you'd pay not to have on your character. A year into the game's belabored existence, Bethesda realized that the only people still playing this half-baked bugfest must be huge suckers, and so they announced Fallout First. Fallout First is an optional subscription service for Fallout 76. So just to recap, you have to purchase the game in order to play it, there's microtransactions on top of that, and now there's a subscription service on top of that. So what does $12.99 USD a month or $100 for a year's subscription get you? Well, you'll get a mixture of long requested player features, which are now locked behind a paywall, and solutions to inconveniences that, you guessed it, they designed. These include the ability to host your own private worlds without a bunch of other players gunking up the place, allowing you to imagine that you're playing a much better Fallout game. A monthly allowance of 1,650 atoms, the game's premium currency for its in-game shop, allowing you to purchase as many balding hairstyles as your heart desires. A scrap box which lets you hold all of your crafting components with unlimited space, and most importantly, a survival tent. The tent is the real draw here, giving you quick, easy, unlimited access to your stash, the aforementioned scrap box, as well as a cooking station, a sleeping bag, an instrument, and a goon cave. One Redditor, who has since deleted their account in shame, posted about their experience after playing 12 hours with Fallout First. When I moved my junk from stash to scrapbox, I freed nearly 400 libs. Getting an extra 400 pounds of stash is huge. The tent is the real balance breaker though, not the scrap box. It effectively means that I'll never be encumbered again. With the tent, I gather everything, and I mean everything. When I hit the encumbrance limit, I smack down a tent, which costs nothing, and has no cooldown. Scrap all the junk and store all the weapons and armor. So yeah, this is pay to win. There are just too many advantages granted to mark it off as not being pay to win. That said, this isn't an insurmountable advantage, but it is the first step on a slippery slope. One exceptionally perturbed individual snagged up falloutfirst.com and used it in order to parody the official Bethesda announcement. The comedic genius behind this seems to think that swearing is the pinnacle of comedy, and so the entire thing is based around the gag that what if it was called Fallout Fuck You First? You have to imagine just how mad someone is for them to purchase a domain, rewrite an entire news article, and then code up an entire website so that it matches the CSS of the Bethesda website. Still, the sentiment rang true across the community as a whole. It wasn't a meme or joke. WTF. I thought someone was making fun of how stupidly far they'll go to make money, picking a ludicrous exaggeration. Holy hell, it's real. Bethesda isn't even concerned about perception anymore. They're going full EA Activision now, and it's given me huge concerns about what the next Elder Scrolls will be like. This premium service also included some premium bugs, as you'd expect from Bethesda. Placing your camp could sometimes just cause your entire game to crash. Your scrap box would sometimes gobble up all of the scrap that you put in it, like your mum at the cock and penis eating festival competition, which left some players without any of their hard-earned junk. Private servers were only as private as your friends list, which meant that that guy that you added 14 years ago after a fun game of Team Fortress 2, who just sort of sits on your friends list and keeps changing his profile, so you can't really remember if he's one of your real friends or not, so you can't quite bring yourself to delete him, but you don't really know who he is. That guy can just join you. Bethesda's dedication to saving the planet appears to extend to their private servers, as some players found worlds that appeared to be recycled. These featured dead NPCs killed by another player, as well as missing loot that was no doubt jingling around the pockets of another Fallout First subscriber. 9 months into Fallout First's existence, which is long enough for you to have a child if you're not the sort of person who spends $12.99 on a Fallout First subscription, Bethesda had yet to deliver on some of the promised features. These included increased camp budget for private worlds, increased camp build area for private worlds, persistent workshops for private worlds, and discounts on Atom Shop items. Today, Fallout First is just kind of there. For long-time players, the convenience is unquestionably worth it, even though, you know, that was completely by design. The feared slippery slope of pay-to-win gimmicks has only gotten slightly worse with the addition of an unlimited ammo storage case. The enraged fans' falloutfirst.com website is still up to this day, 4 years after it was announced.